All right. Welcome back to Total Disc. Damn, that was going to be so slick. I started this new thing where I was going to start the intro right at the tail end of the music. See how that worked out for me. Welcome back to Total Disclosure. My name's Ty. I am your host and creator. We're going to be joined tonight also by producer Gene. He's going to be jumping in just a moment. But the real fun, if you will, is someone returning from last week's live stream where we had a little ghost encounter, which was something new for me. Last weekend was fucking wild. Multiple days of ontological shock and existential crisis. But yes, joining us tonight is Brian Cory Dobbs. He is the award-winning documentary filmmaker of Blue Planet Red. Brian's work delivers a groundbreaking look at the evidence for life, fossils, artifacts, and hidden ruins on the Red Planet, as well as the UFO connection. Beyond his film, he actively drives the Mars disclosure movement forward through his YouTube channel, Blue Planet Red with Brian Cory Dobbs, of the same name. Get ready. We're going to be really diving deep into this, and I don't think I've ever done a show that's specifically on Mars. I'm so excited to get into it. It's something that I am very passionate about because many cultures have looked to the sky and talked about the Red Planet. And, now that we're able to send, photographic machines and tools to our closest and, even some of our furthest celestial objects, we're starting to see that I don't think everything's as cut and dry as the textbooks would have it. So with that being said, let's welcome today our friend, Brian Cory Dobbs. My friend.
Ty, what's going on, man?
Nothing much. I'm battling a little bit. I'm a little bit under the weather.
Yeah, sorry to hear that, dude.
Yeah, we were gonna do this show last night, but I had to chicken out because of my my voice sounded way worse last night. I always have a kind of grovelly voice, but God, it I sounded like RFK Jr. yesterday.
I hear you. Well, it's okay, man. We're here today. The sun's shining. We got plenty of time and good company. So
yes,
happy to be here.
Listen, I wanted to open up the show with a little bit of banter.
Yeah.
That's what I do best is I fucking banter. I know you don't follow this stuff as extremely close as I do, but I wanted to kind of get your feelings on something. Do you know who Lou Elizondo is?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so you know Elizondo. You know Ross Coulthart?
Yes.
Okay, do you know UAP Gerb?
Only by name.
Only by name. Okay. Well, Ross.
You were mentioning him last week, and I sort of got the gist of what was going on there.
Right. Oh, right. I remember that. So Ross had UAP Gerb on the News Nation reality check program. They're doing like a two-parter, and some pretty. It's not anything new. I mean, people have been talking about Elizondo being this kind of legacy UFO program plant, or at least mechanism, whether he knows it or not, this mechanism of a controlled disclosure, right? And, ever since Elizondo first came into the UFO community in 2017, he's been pretty open about how he's not a quote unquote UFO guy. He's not a ufologist. He's not this. He's not that. He's a counter intel expert who is asked to use his skills on and around the UFO topic. Now, what that sounds like to me is that he's doing someone's bidding, and it's always sounded like that to me. I just don't yell and scream about it. The guy's been pretty open about what he is and isn't. We're the ones, or not we, but there's some people in this community that follow the guy and everything he says like it's gospel. And I if you're defending the UFO gurus like they're like your fucking fantasy football team, like reevaluate yourself. Like
right?
Fundamentally reevaluate where you're at.
Right.
And so Gerb went on Ross Coulthard. The weird thing is people in the community have been talking about Lou for a long time. Listen, I kind of like the guy. There's something about him that I like, and I think that's why he's good at his job. I want to like him. I want to trust him. But I know you got to keep people like that at arm's distance. So there's this idea of this role in government, at least like liaison between government, military, and the public that I think Elizondo is at least gunning for. But Gerb and Coulthard came out and they both kind of like endorsed this idea that Lou is a plant from the legacy UFO programs, plural, and that he has been sent kind of to control the nozzle, right? We can't let it overflow and flood. We have to let it drip out. What do you think of something like that?
Of course, it makes logical sense. I think in general, as it relates to disclosure, we have these figures, these public figures. Some of them are more notable than others. And the public applies a certain value to each one of them based on whom they're affiliated with. In the case of Lou Elizondo, first of all, I agree with you. He seems like a likable guy. Just the way he speaks seems relatable. He's got a cool name. He was featured on 60 Minutes, okay, looking really sharp. And coming from video production world and filmmaking and such, I'm sure you can appreciate simply having higher production quality associated with your public persona oftentimes allows you to have inherently more credibility in the eyes of the public.
Isn't that weird, right?
Optics means a whole lot. And this is something that a lot of people don't really understand who are getting into this, but
bingo.
So, video podcasts have come a long way. They've upped their game. It's not just about audio now. It's about like how you can present yourself. So that being said, because he comes from this, from government, essentially, there is always
he definitely comes from government.
Right. Government, there's a variety of ways you can define what government is, but, just to distill it down, there is always going to be, and there always should be, an inherent amount of skepticism as it relates to any government official, former or existing, based on what exactly it is they're saying. There should always be skepticism there. I do get the sense that there is at least some amount of truth to what he is saying. In the whether or not it is entirely true or not, I don't want to get so lost in the black or white aspect of it, because we are sitting here in 2026 talking about flying saucers in the mainstream news, and I think that's an overall win for this movement. And figures like him in the eyes of the uninitiated public have an inherent amount of credibility because he is essentially vetted. He has the government credentials. He has the, secret government credentials. And so for the people who just go to work and they come home and they put on the 5 o'clock news, there's that UFO guy from the government, and he's telling it like it is, and they don't know this. There's what you have on the mainstream news, and I don't want to knock the mainstream news. I mean, it is there, and everybody watches it, and that's fine. But then there's online culture, which like people like you and I are really tapped into, and like we can't talk to our parents or our friends about this stuff. They're not into it. They just see the major headlines, and he's going to be one of those people in the major headlines. So
that's a great
you and I have to have that ability to discern a little bit more as it relates to what's coming from him. And, I think that's that's fair.
Do you think it's our job to maybe enlighten people on, if they get, but okay, let me kind of rephrase this, because I want to jump. Obviously, I want to get to your topic, but I couldn't help myself but bite into this a little bit tonight. Do you think that it's our job as people that are tapped in to kind of temper people's expectations if they do come across this stuff and say, maybe they're talking and they're a little bit misguided? Do you think there is, or do you think, because there's no denying that the shift from 2017 to now, you can't deny what the guy's done for the topic mainstream. You can't fucking deny it. Whether there's the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain pulling the fucking strings, he's the public face of that momentum shift, and to the Stars Academy. So you could argue that we aren't here today without the introduction of Lou Elizondo.
Yeah, I agree. Again, we have to give the guy credit here. Like, this thing got kicked off 2017. That's almost 10 years ago.
Isn't
right?
that crazy?
It is. We've made a lot of progress since then. And I think the reason why you invited me on this show directly relates to what he was involved in releasing these, or leaking these videos, these UFO videos, to the New York Times way back in the day. I mean, that now we're having congressional hearings, we're having mainstream news coverage, and this.
I watched him testify to Congress.
Right. I mean, this is a big deal. Whether or not he's playing a part, well, he might be, but overall, I see it as, okay, he's helping the movement gain the attention that it deserves. But to answer your question, yes, it is up to people like us to, be a little bit more discerning and to try to contextualize this for the layperson who doesn't follow the day-to-day and who doesn't know all the actors and things of that nature. As it relates to who to trust, where do we place most of our trust, with which public figures? I've got my people who I look to try to, who do I trust on this topic? Who do I trust on this topic? Of course, it's never going to be 100%, nor should it be. But if you look at the entire field of UFO disclosure and the personalities in it, I think each one of us are going to, it's not a black or white thing, it's a spectrum, right? And I think that we have to take in as much information as possible. Right. We shouldn't necessarily choose sides. This isn't like what's your favorite football team, and it's we have to be a little bit more careful, a little bit more nuanced with this information.
It's a really good point. It's a really, really good point. So with that being said, Gerb and them, the thing that is kind of surprising me the most about it all, I turned that by accident. I'll fix that in a minute. But what's surprising is now it used to only come from the bottom up, right? Like it was Lou crew, and then it was the people who loved him. There was the people that loved him, and the people that love him, kind of love him. Yeah. And to the people that hate him, they don't just dislike him. It's this really weird dichotomy. I've never seen someone so polarizing. Not even Dr. Greer, I would argue, is as polarizing in retrospect. If 10 years from now, looking back on it, unless Elizondo comes out and shows us the body, he's been so polarizing in such a short time that, I think he's arguably more than Greer. And Greer's kind of slipped away lately. Did you notice that?
I'm happy you brought up Greer, because I was actually going to go there next. Greer, I think, was the first one I heard being critical of Elizondo, being skeptical of Elizondo. But this is years ago, and I'm thinking, why is he so hard on Elizondo? Elizondo, it seems like he's coming out and trying to release this information. He seems genuine with his intent behind this, but
right.
Stephen Greer is one of these people who I place more inherent trust because he is, number one, apolitical, number two, unaffiliated with any government organization. Now, certainly he's a controversial figure.
Are you
I don't know
sure about
everything.
that?
I never heard that he worked. And he was a surgeon who got into this, and he was doing this long before it was cool, man. And to be doing this for that long, you got to give that guy a whole lot of credit too. Now, I don't know the deep history, all the ins and outs, but I'm inclined to take what he has to say quite seriously. And this is the thing. I was once offered, hey, someone once asked me a hypothetical question. If I could gain a lot more exposure for the work that I'm doing with Mars, but I would have to be affiliated with a presidential administration, would I want to do that? And I don't want to do that. I do not want to be affiliated with any government entity, especially any political entity, because then there's along with that brings more inherent skepticism. People are going to be distrustful. I hope that I never get accused of being, playing a psyop or something like that. People just like to throw that word around when they don't like somebody. Oh, he's just a psyop. He's doing a psyop and things like that. Like I'm, all I have right now is my credibility. And I look to the people who are doing this and who are doing this with, in my opinion, noble efforts, who aren't necessarily making a whole lot of money on it, although I'm not necessarily critical of that. If you can understand public relations in a way somebody has to report on this stuff, and it's a capitalist society. I have no problem making money on it, but you have to figure out where that money is coming from. And I think my main criticism of Greer is that he doesn't understand public relations well enough. And I don't think it's his fault that he's fallen by the wayside. He's still doing what he's doing, but he doesn't necessarily he's a well-spoken person, but I get the sense that his reputation suggests that he is, a highly polarizing figure. He's not a very fun person to be around. And, I don't know all of his experiences, but, I'm sure he's rubbed people the wrong way. He has made some wonderful documentaries with filmmaker Mike Mazzola. I don't know these guys personally, but I was really impressed by some of those.
I would argue that Unacknowledged is up there with like the top 5. I would argue that
Unacknowledged is great. Lost Century blew my freaking mind, and
I liked
the production quality was fantastic.
Yeah, I liked it, but and I'll give Greer credit where credit is due. He didn't stray too far. Like, this was about the lost civilization and how to reclaim it, right? It wasn't. It didn't swing over to full ufology, right?
Right.
He really kept the topical element alive on that one, which I actually respected a lot. Yeah, I think he puts out some of the best films, but I also think James Fox is up there with with what he does too.
Oh well, James Fox is a great filmmaker. I was just commenting on the filmmaker that Greer works with.
Mazzola, he's
Mazzola.
Great.
He's done some great work there, and I know
Really
he's probably
good.
doing some other stuff there. I think if more people watch The Lost Century, they'd like Stephen Greer a little bit more. It's just, with his personality, maybe it's just not as very engaging with the media. Like, the media has to like you. That's how you get so much coverage, is you have to be likable. And I think Stephen Greer's inherent problem is that he's just not as likable as everybody else.
Right.
But that, to me, tells me that he is a little bit more connected to the truth and not really biased or influenced, rather, by people who want to manipulate the narrative. Now, look, this is just my general feeling. Of course, Stephen Greer is going to be a polarizing figure, and people might disagree here or there. But, it's all a spectrum.
I think one of the greatest debates ever would be Greer, Elizondo, fucking, I don't care. Put Jesse Michaels there to mediate it, right? They, whatever. Put one of these guys in there to mediate it. Put me in there to mediate it. I don't know. But I think that would be like, short of like them it divulging into name calling, like that might be the single greatest. Like that might be up there with Hillary Trump debate number 1. Right? Like that's fucking electric TV right there.
I'd pay to see that. Definitely.
But dude, Lou, Steven, let's go. Come on. We'll fund it. Let's go, baby. All right, Brian, listen. You've done a lot of hard work. Blue Planet Red is the documentary. All the links for everything that all your stuff will be in the description below for people on the replay. And I want to get into how, I'm just going to play the quick ad break and just get it over with.
Sure.
90 seconds. We'll be right back. Great banter session. I'm feeling loose. I'm feeling a little bit better. When we come back, I want to hear about how you first got into looking at Mars. Where did the fascination come from? Did you see that?
Yep, it's happening again.
Dude, guys, I can't make this shit up. I mean, last time people were accusing me, by the way, I want to set the record straight. In that live stream, people were saying I was looking down. My laptop was on the desk and I was looking down at the chat, but I was doing that the whole episode. I did not. I shelved a whole documentary because someone asked me to stage something. I shelved 3 years of work because someone asked me to stage something. No, I didn't stage the fucking light dimming. Like, come on. But it's just going to keep happening. Y'all see. Y'all will see. My microphones explode, but we'll be right back, guys. This is I'm already tuned up, and I'm a little sick, so I took some what's that shit called? Dayquil. So it's kicking in, brother. I'm about to go Hulkamaniac on your on the show. But yeah, we'll be right back, guys. 90 seconds. This episode of Total Disclosure is brought to you by Good Feels Cannabis Seltzers. And I'll be honest, this is one of my favorite partners that we've ever had on the show. As I've given up alcohol, I'm very open about this on the show, and I think a lot more people choosing that same path. So if you're looking for something that can truly replace alcohol in any setting, whether you're unwinding after a long day of research, hosting friends, or just want to stay clear-headed and in control, Good Feels delivers a completely different kind of experience. It starts with their 12-ounce stubby bottles of cannabis-infused seltzers. They're crisp, clean, 0 sugar, and 0 calories. And they're designed to give you a smooth, fast-acting, elevated feeling without the crash, without the hangover, and without the downsides of alcohol. And if you're more than an at-home mixologist, Good Feels also has fast-acting beverage enhancers. You can add them to literally anything. Sparkling water, mocktails, whatever you like, and create your own customized experience. This isn't about checking out, it's about tuning in, staying present, and upgrading the way that you kick back and relax. And right now, listeners of Total Disclosure get 20% off their order. That's getgoodfeels.com for 20% off exclusive to this audience. Good Feels Cannabis Seltzers. Replace the alcohol, keep the experience, stay in control. Now back to the show. I gotta fix that ending. Back to the show. It sounds like so terrible. But All right, guys. So, Brian, I am going to let you take the lead here. How did you get into the topic of Mars, and how did you, what led you down this path? Talk to me a little bit about your origins.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief here. I've worked a 9 to 5 like most other people until up till about COVID, and then my girlfriend suggested that I read a book by Graham Hancock
Hey,
called Fingerprints of the Gods, which I'm sure most people are aware of. I had never heard about any of this stuff, and I read it and I didn't get it. I thought this was fiction, and I'm like, what the hell is this? I didn't hear about any of this stuff. Then I finished it and I'm like, this is crazy. It seems like there's more to our past. There's more going on with our past than I was previously aware of. So I became a fan of Graham Hancock, just relatively, 4 years ago or so. And then I was looking at his collection of books, and as it turns out, most people don't know this, but he's got a whole book written about Mars.
really?
Yes.
What is it called?
Really. It's called The Mars Mystery. And in it, he's talking about the same kind of things that I've been talking about for the past few years. This book was written in the late 90s. Okay. And it discusses NASA's Viking mission in the 70s to Mars and what they found primarily. And what they found was evidence for life and an ancient civilization. So the book has since been ridiculed quite a bit. I think Graham has distanced himself from it because there's with Mars, there's a lot of baggage. There's a lot of inherent baggage with it. The face on Mars, we could go through it. But as it turns out, there's a whole new generation of Mars researchers. Hello to people who are joining us.
Yeah.
There's a whole new generation of Mars researchers who are finding all sorts of stuff, Ty, and the public is mostly unaware of this. I want to give credit to a man by the name of Richard Hoagland, who in the 80s spearheaded the modern day Mars disclosure movement. I don't think it was called that. There you go, Mars Mystery. But in the wake of the Viking mission, which was NASA's incredible mission to Mars, they were photographing some interesting things on the surface. And back then we had, lower resolution stuff, but we could still make out some anomalous stuff. And so a man by the name of Richard Hoagland put together sort of a superhero team of independent scientists who would evaluate the data and analyze it from a completely different point of view than what NASA was doing, because NASA was like, there's nothing to see here. And Richard Hoagland and company saw things differently. And they had public relations campaigns over the years, blah, blah, blah. And it's sort of fizzled out. The public's interest in it fizzled out maybe at the turn of the century. However, since then there have been a new crop of researchers, both professional and independent, who have done a lot of work analyzing NASA's Mars data, publishing research papers on it, publishing things to the internet. And what I do is I cover the people. So I don't do the research itself, but I research the researchers. And I try to report on all. I'm sort of like maybe yourself, a nexus point of all things Mars disclosure. So you were telling me a few minutes ago about how there might be something in the news that you have 12 people contact you about it. Same thing for me, but as it relates to Mars. Now, fortunately, your podcast, Total Disclosure, in my opinion, disclosure has to include Mars. Based on what I've seen and what we continue to see, there is some overlap. Like here's an image you just have up here. This is what most people are familiar with, a boring, desolate, rocky landscape. And that's what NASA is really good at. Just putting these pictures out into the public saying, hey, look, here's Mars, everybody.
Look at the
rocks
dust and rock.
Yeah, there's rocks and weather on Mars, and that's about it. That's all NASA really does. NASA does great work with engineering. Like, I want to credit NASA for furthering our understanding of the universe and the solar system, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, they've discovered a whole lot that they're just not talking about. The data is there. All of my work is based off of their own data. And when I say data, that includes photographs. Okay. So photographs are admissible in court as evidence. And we've got so much good stuff, Ty, over 30, 40 years now, high resolution photography, multiple rover missions, that we've got more eyes looking at this. We're citing sources, and I'm in touch with a community, which I'd like to highlight their work, because, you know, I'm at the nexus point of all things Mars disclosure: biology, paleontology, archaeology, and UFOs that we're here. You know, we could start talking off today, because there's so much really cool stuff there happening. So much. After I read Graham Hancock's book, I read another book by Dr. John Brandenburg. I'm like, I got to do something about this, because I'm a filmmaker. And I said, well, what needs to be done is that there needs to be some sort of comprehensive Mars documentary. And I looked around, like, there wasn't anything. All this data was published, but it just wasn't all put together. And when you put it all together, the totality of evidence paints a very different picture of Mars than the one that most people are familiar with. And if you understand all of the facets towards all of these interesting discoveries that NASA has made, yet doesn't really comment on, then you'll start to understand what it is that I'm talking about. So I really thank you for your interest in having me on the show today, because I think this is going to blow a lot of people's minds.
Absolutely. I mean, this is one of those topics that's just like, it is so interesting to me that, you know, because I have a lot of theories myself on, you know, what, like, in my opinion, maybe one of the things we can start with is this idea that humans may have, like, we all know that there's a big scar across Mars, right? And that some say that there was another planet in our solar system, and that it impacted Mars, and there was life on Mars, intelligent life that escaped, and they came to Earth. And that is why our biological clocks are more attuned to Mars. You know, the sun burns us. We stood, you know, if you're going by evolution, we shed our fur only to need pelts in the winter. We stood up only to have back pain. You know, we also, like, you look at every other thing every other creature, every other insect, every other animal, it seems to have this delicate balance with the ecosystem, and it takes what it needs, but it doesn't, you know, it's a perfect balance. Humans, we take and take and take and take and take and take and take. Rarely do we give back, a small percentage. What, have you ever heard this theory?
Yes, and actually, one of my goals, Ty, is to try to thread that needle just right, because I do think there is some amount of truth to it. Although, because I'm such a nuts and bolts guy, it's a lot harder it's a challenging task to try to weave that narrative in, where the origin of humanity was on Mars and then came to Earth. We do have mythological texts, you know, of which I am not inherently familiar with. I just hear about them, and it's something I need to get to eventually. I am in touch with, you know, we're going to go on the deep end just for a moment here. I am in touch with remote viewers and channelers. So if you entertain the metaphysical analysis aspect of Mars disclosure, a lot of what they have to say supports exactly what you just said. The challenge is, how do you communicate that to the public who is still sort of adopting and emerging their interest or gaining interest in the metaphysical, although I think it's coming more and more mainstream. So that, that's something that I save for like the the later levels, the 201 or the 301 version of Mars Disclosure. I like to try to focus on 101, especially for those people who have never heard about any of this stuff.
Right.
Ty, most people don't even know that there's water on Mars.
Right. And not just a little, like a lot. Right. Especially at the caps,
Yes.
So
the polar ice caps are mostly H2O. You can see them with a telescope. However, buried across the entire planet, just a few centimeters down, is ice. So a lot of, Mars used to be this blue planet. This is why I title it Blue Planet Red. It was once a blue planet like Earth, but then something terrible happened to it, which is a part of what I cover, exactly what happened. And then a lot of that water evaporated, and a lot of it kind of sublimated down into the soil and froze. But as we know, Ty, where there's water, there's life, even if it's ice.
Yes, sir.
So,
yeah, and I find it to be quite telling that, like, not just from our like modern day, but since humans looked up, they always found the red planet as this thing, right? This thing that could affect you physiologically. Now it's like people talk about Mars in retrograde and stuff. And like, while I don't necessarily believe that kind of thing, like, there is a reason and a mystery that people look up to Mars, the red planet, and they see this celestial object that is an enigma wrapped in a mystery, wrapped in, like just this cosmic detectives like documentary. And it's also true that NASA has shaped the public perception of Mars as being this desolate, rusty terrain, when in reality, I don't think that's actually the case, is it?
I mean, Mars is red because it's covered in rust. Okay, but what does that tell us?
Right, but if you're on Mars, is it as orange as this?
Well, I think what you're alluding to is how NASA has, unfortunately, for a long period of time, manipulated the colors of these rover photographs, making it appear a lot more red than it actually is, including the sky. Mars' sky is actually a whole lot more like ours. It's, depending on the time of day, it could be blue, it could be purple, reddish and orange, depending on where the sun is and sunset and things of that nature. But, if you look at the Perseverance rover landing video, there's a camera looking straight up in the sky, and it's a blue sky. So
right.
Why does NASA want to try to hide that from us? We can only speculate, but we have reason to believe that they want to paint a picture of Mars where it is not a habitable world, and it's not. I mean, if we show up there tomorrow, it's
we're not going to be able to. We're not just going to plant the flag and fucking live there.
No. So, but
I think I have the picture you just referenced.
Okay.
Is this it?
Yeah, I mean, this is a good picture here. This is a more color accurate picture where you can see that
that just looks like we're in like the Nevada desert,
right?
Or Arizona.
It does.
Yeah,
it does. So NASA has started fixing this problem.
But there's a huge. You do agree that there's a huge difference between this and this?
Of course.
Okay, we can all agree that's like
right.
That's almost kind of, by the way, this one's one of my favorite little, like, what is that? Dude, what the fuck is that? But I didn't mean to put that one up there. But there's a huge difference between the color grading there.
Yeah, and they started doing that day one, as soon as they started getting back lander photos from the Viking lander in 1976, I for the film, I interviewed a lot of people, including a gentleman by the name of Ron Levin, who was the son of Dr. Gil Levin. Gil Levin was the person who designed one of the biology experiments that went to Mars in 1976, and Ron was in the control room as a 20 something, and we're going to work with his father. His father's working at NASA, which was really cool. But he's looking at all the monitors, and they're beaming back the pictures, and all the monitors immediately start showing Mars with a blue sky. And immediately, one of the technicians went around to all the monitors, these analog monitors, and started turning knobs to make it appear less blue, like
Ooh.
right off the bat. So I interviewed Ron for the film, and he recounts the story, and he says, then I went and I changed them all back to the proper color. And he got in trouble for it. So immediately they're starting to like, oh my God, what's this? Mars shouldn't look like this. Why does it look like this? And I think the basic idea is that NASA doesn't want to give the public any reason to believe that Mars is a lot more like Earth than this dead planet that they really want to tell us that it is.
But why do that? Now, we could argue, right? We could argue that NASA fights for their funding per year, right?
Yeah.
Why not let it slip out that Mars is maybe more habitable than we anticipated and get public support for more missions and because the space race only worked because the populace was behind it, right? Mm-hmm. Look where modern space exploration has ended up. It's ended up, mostly in the private sector at this point, and public interest has waned. And this didn't just happen like recently. This was during the Apollo missions where public interest started to wane, because there's only so many times you can land and it be this cultural moment, right? So why not try to recreate that drive where their funding kicks up, or is there something on Mars that they want to keep secret so that they can specifically exploit it and keep the rest of the world in the dark about what might actually be there and what the potential that's untapped, literally?
This is going to sound conspiratorial. This is going to sound
that's what we do, my friend.
I can address this directly. This is going to sound like X-Files, but there is everything that I say I can back up to an official source, okay? There is something called the Brookings Institution Report. Have you heard of this?
I have, of course, have heard of this, yes.
Okay. So it basically advises NASA, hey, look, back in 1960, NASA, you're going out in outer space. You might find some stuff once you start landing on these planets. I'm paraphrasing here. If you happen to come across any artifacts or ruins or signs of an ancient civilization, you might want to think twice before you tell the public, because if you tell the public, they might freak out, cause panic, and society itself might crumble. So this is there's a Wikipedia page about this thing, okay? And this is directly related to what we believe NASA's playbook is. I've spoken with the people who've been studying this stuff and who've been working on this stuff for decades, and they said basically this has been institutionalized. They have reason to believe that this playbook has been institutionalized, and they're still running this playbook today. So now, if I'm trying to be fair here, if I'm in charge of the country or the world, do I want mass chaos? No. I mean, I enjoy my peaceful life. So do I want to be responsible for totally disrupting paradigms and causing the world to go into turmoil? No. However, at some point, we have to be honest with the public with what we're finding up there. And I now, in the wake of disclosure now becoming popular and hip and fun, I argue that NASA, that SpaceX, that the Mars Society, that these Mars-focused organizations, I argue that they should adopt Mars disclosure in their messaging to the public, because I do think, like the space race, that would galvanize public support to get more funding to go to Mars quicker. Okay? Not just for colonization purposes. Mars is a crime scene. Okay? We've got to figure out exactly what happened. We have a good idea about what happened, but when you have a crime scene, what do? You study it first before you say, okay, all clear, you can start using this space again. So until we do that, I really don't think we can just say, hey, let's put boots on the ground and start planting flags. We really got to go there and investigate further what we are already looking at with remote landers, rovers, and orbiters. We'll get into the details here. So I do think it's okay now for them to take a different approach, because NASA, traditionally speaking, has not been in the business of disclosure. They want to be, they're a mostly trusted organization that people feel safe talking about. NASA doesn't want to get in the weeds about any of this disclosure stuff. And as it relates to Mars disclosure specifically, imagine the most horrifying aspects of UFO disclosure, Ty, that all the terrible things that Stephen Greer talks about, okay, abductions and things like that, trafficking, blah, 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 blah. That's like the deep end, okay? That's the terrible shit that we hear about. There's a whole lot of terrible shit with Mars. And if people knew what that terrible shit was, they might freak the fuck out.
You think?
They might, because it's terrifying.
Okay. Tell me what's terrifying about it.
Well, top level here. The planet used to be blue, like Earth. It was like Earth before Earth was like Earth.
Right.
Okay?
So it's lush. It had atmosphere, greenery, water.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not that anymore.
So and obviously there's evidence of a huge fucking tear on the front of it.
Yes. What happened to the planet? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened to it is terrifying. Okay?
Nuclear war.
Well, I didn't want to spoil it, but
well, didn't they find Zion 129 there?
Yes.
Atmosphere.
Okay, so there's NASA's narrative, which makes everybody feel safe. But then there's their data, which suggests something completely differently, which does explain the scar and explains the weird nuclear isotopes in the atmosphere. And if it was once blue, Ty, with oceans, lakes, and rivers, and a breathable, thick atmosphere, which gave rise to life and arguably intelligent life, and I've got a little bit of a show and tell here, which I can show you, then that means there's an entire humanoid civilization, a global civilization that was wiped out right next door. And that maybe they were us, maybe they were just related to us, maybe they were right next door. So, when I talk about what disclosure is in movie terms, I like to put it this way. I think disclosure is a mix between Star Trek, Star Wars, Men in Black, right? But when Star Wars opens up and we have Darth Vader annihilating Alderaan, the evidence collected by NASA, and I have vetted this, I have looked into it, John Brandenburg has published on this, the evidence thus far only points to one thing, and that the atmosphere was ignited. This is Oppenheimer's worst fear. For those of us who watched Oppenheimer, he has that scene with Matt Damon, because they were before the Trinity test. Remember this? They were like, what are the chances you're going to ignite the atmosphere and annihilate all life on Earth?
It's not zero.
Near zero, right? Well,
it's not zero either.
That is what happened. And it was not a natural event. So when I say terrifying, I don't know about you, but when I read this and John Brandenburg's book, I couldn't sleep for 3 nights, Tice, and I felt compelled to do something about this. And now, if NASA knows this, do they want to come out to the public talking about this? Look, I mean, this is a lot right off the top of the show. I usually try to save this for later. You brought it up, we can talk about it, no problem. But NASA knows this. I have talked to nuclear weapons experts about this. I have vetted this. NASA refused to sit down with me for an interview. JPL refused to sit down with me for an interview. Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory refused to sit down with me. NATO refused to sit down with me. Georgia Tech, Steve Bogowski, nuclear physicist, nuclear weapons expert, refused to sit down with me, but he did communicate with me over email. And I have not yet seen anything that tells me otherwise. There's a lot of detail involved with this because it sounds nuts. Believe me, I know. This is why I wanted to make sure that this was absolutely watertight before I messaged on it. And as far as I can tell, it is.
Admittedly, that is a terrifying notion, because what that signals is that, I mean, at any moment we could light this candle and there's no going back. No going back. And so when you say the atmosphere, it ignited.
Mm-hmm.
I know we might be getting into some speculative territory here, but what does John say that caused the ignition? Is this warring factions? Is this a civilization that got too greedy? What was his thesis on what that could be? I know there's no way we can definitively know, but what was kind of the consensus?
We can entertain a few ideas. There's never going to be any certainty on this. Well, rather, until we go there and start collecting more data, boots on the ground, all we have is speculation. But one of 3 things, at least, okay? Number 1, they did it to themselves. Okay? We could do it to ourselves. However, it's not just nuclear holocaust. It is atmospheric ignition. And to do that, the only reason why Oppenheimer wasn't able to ignite the entire atmosphere of Earth was because there wasn't enough energy output from that bomb. In order to create enough energy, you need as much atomic weapons that would fill the Empire State Building. This is
God damn.
Okay, that's how much you need. John Brandenburg did the calculations. All right. This is 1 to 2 orders of magnitude more powerful than the meteor that is credited for killing the dinosaurs. Okay, it is so much. All right. So if they didn't, I would think they didn't do that to themselves. But if we're entertaining a couple other ideas, Dr. Brandenburg, who's been the only one, by the way, who was published on this, and he's still with us today. He doesn't get enough credit. He has never been asked to sign an NDA. He brought this information to the Pentagon. They told him to publish. if they would have told him not to, he would have said okay. But no, they instructed him to publish. He says they want this out there. They just don't want to talk about it. Okay. I'm like, all right. But he posits that, well, aliens, we'll just say aliens, are a lot like us. There's some good and some bad. Right?
Yeah. Yin and yang, baby.
Maybe the bad guys came and they just wanted to wipe everybody out. In this age of AI, maybe it was AI. This is all speculation. I don't really try to assign anything here, okay? Because I might lose people. All I really want to do is talk about the nuts and bolts. And what the nuts and bolts say is that there are 3 radioactive hotspots on the surface of Mars, okay, where 2 large explosions went off. The shockwave wrapped itself around the planet and then collided with itself. And then there's another hotspot on the exact opposite of the planet. Okay. These hotspots are radioactive with thorium and potassium. And thorium is interesting because if you add thorium to an atomic weapon, it boosts the output. Okay. And it makes a whole lot more xenon-129, which is an isotope of xenon. Okay. And the only other thing that makes this level of xenon-129 is a supernova. But a supernova didn't go off and place a bunch of xenon-129 on Mars and nowhere else in the solar system. That's ridiculous. It would have blown everything up. So clearly something happened specifically with Mars. Now, there's a lot more that we could go over because there's a lot of speculative. There's a lot of skepticism. Yeah. There's a lot of skepticism as it relates to this, but it's only because people don't understand the details. And I understand all these details, which would bore some of these people. But this is why I want to try to get nuclear weapons experts engaged in the discussion, because they want to point to the country of Gabon, which is a country in Africa, which has a uranium mine that millions of years ago they figured out that water seeped into this uranium mine and it started a natural nuclear reaction. Okay. But there's just one problem. That type, not all nuclear reactions are created equal. And that type of nuclear reaction is similar to what happens in a nuclear power plant. The neutron absorption from one nucleus to another is slow. They call it S process for slow. Okay. What happens inside, the physics that happens inside of a thermonuclear weapon is R process, rapid neutron absorption. Okay. So it's not the same thing. And that's the best they got. They can't counter with anything else. So it leads me to believe that Brandenburg really knows his stuff and that everybody else just wants to pretend like this data doesn't exist.
Jesus. So let's go to some of now, because I know you said that that was like a little bit more advanced. Let's kind of take it from the top and give me some entry level. Like, let's do this the way you kind of anticipated. I threw you for a wrench there, but
that's fine.
Let's go back and like, all right, how would you, if I was someone who had never, ever talked or understood or had looked into anomalies on Mars and craft being seen in the atmosphere of Mars, or not in the atmosphere of Mars, what little atmosphere there is, where would you take me? How would you take me down this path?
Yeah, well, Ty, for someone like you who's hip to all this disclosure stuff, I mean, we could start with UFOs, which is, I'm sure, what a lot of your listeners would like to see, because there's UFOs on Mars, which we'll show you. But for the uninitiated, the general public, the layperson, I start with water. Do you know there's water on Mars? They keep putting out these news stories. Hey, NASA found water on Mars. Guys, this is yesterday's news. This is last century's news.
Right.
They confirmed this 50 years ago. Okay. With Viking. Now, Viking was It's something that most people don't even know about today, but it was this monumental mission to Mars. And in fact, it was a double mission, Viking 1 and Viking 2, sort of like Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, right? They sent Viking 1 and 2 to Mars, and each one of them had a lander and an orbiter. So there's 2 landers and 2 orbiters. The landers went down, they just landed, they can't move. And they collected soil samples and did biology tests. They did atmospheric measurements, collected a lot of data on the ground. The orbiters photographed a lot of cool stuff. So from all of that data, we're able to derive some information and some knowledge about this interesting planet right next to us. And long story short, they did 3 biology tests, and all 3 of them returned results consistent with microbial life, active microbial life. So, to distill this down, NASA discovered microbial life in 1976. Now, why don't most people know that?
Right, because that seems like an important discovery.
It is. And the reason why most people don't know it is very stupid. Here it is. They sent 3 biology tests. They also sent 1 organics test, okay? There's a difference between active life and organic material. When you think organic material, you think when a leaf falls from a tree and it decays, okay? When you compost stuff, all that organic material. It's not alive, but it's the building blocks, right? They didn't find any organic material in the soil of Mars in 1976 because their test wasn't good enough.
Oh, the old, we didn't do well.
They found organic material later when they got better equipment and they started sending rovers. Curiosity rover found organic material. They still find organic material. You go back a month ago, they're making news headlines about finding organic material all over the surface of Mars. The organic material is in there. And this is the difference between soil and regolith. Regolith is dirt without any organic material in it. Soil has organic material in it. So we don't have regolith on Mars. We have soil on Mars. But NASA in 1976 got positive life test results, but negative organic. So they said, we're not sure what to make of this. This is ambiguous data. It wasn't the home run that they were expecting. So they really weren't sure what to say. So they said, well, our life test results are inconclusive. Now, in all fairness, I understand why they did that, but I got to hold their feet to the fire here because when they eventually found the organic material later, they should have revisited this result. Then they did.
I see what you're saying.
And they have not done that.
Huh.
So you have the designers of, there's one, the first test was called the labeled release experiment. All you do is you scoop up soil, you feed it some nutrients, and you see if any gas comes out, okay? Organisms eat food, they make gas. That's it, okay? And this particular test was run over 4,000 times here on Earth. It was designed by a sanitation engineer, a PhD, who had to test soil and water samples to see if there's any pathogens in it, okay? And he produced this homemade test, essentially, that he used for his job. This is before he worked for NASA. And it was run over 4,000 times, and it never produced a false positive nor false negative. It was a perfectly designed test. So at a cocktail party, Gil Levin said, hey, he meets the NASA administrator at a cocktail party in DC, and he says, hey, I heard you're going to Mars. Are you guys looking for life? And the administrator says, yes, we're looking for life. He's like, well, cool. I got just this thing for you. I got a test that can test soil and see if it has any microbes in it. And it tests down to 10 parts per million or something ridiculous. It's so sensitive. It was a perfectly designed test. So they sent that on both landers on 2 different sides of the planet, both of which found life multiple times. And that should have been it. They should have popped the champagne then and there, but they didn't. So now here we are 50 years later. The man has gone to his grave, And even his co-designer, the person who helped him adapt it for Viking, they had to make it smaller to physically get it in the thing. They're both dead now, and they've both been marginalized by their communities. Their communities thought that they were crazy because they were advocating that they found life, and they did. So that's where the story starts, is microbes. And it's a tragic story, but I am trying like hell to try to get these people more recognition, because I think their story deserves to be told. And I consult with the modern day scientist, a guy named Dr. Stephen Benner, who is an award-winning biochemist in Florida, who actually invents new forms of DNA. He knows the Viking biology experiments inside and out better than anybody on the planet. I've spent considerable time with him. And a lot of what I'm telling you now is stuff that he has published on, and he is trying to get his entire astrobiology community to understand that NASA's narrative of no life on Mars is completely wrong. So that's where we're starting with, Ty. You know, and most people have no idea. And going further, since 1976, NASA has actually discovered other evidence for microbial life on the surface. So I cover this. This is what compelled me to make this documentary. It's what, you know, I learn new stuff like you learn their stuff. New stuff comes to me, and I continue publishing videos on this. I still cover it on my YouTube channel because we're learning new things. And, you know, there's people all over the world who are studying this stuff that nobody knows about. Relatively few people know about.
Wow. So we're starting with life, microbial life already existing on Mars. I mean, as a starting point, like, for me, that's like the gate, right? If there's microbial life or even a potential for it, I mean, that should be the ticket. That should be the one-way ticket, right? Or not the one-way ticket.
Well,
but you know what I mean?
Even microbes aren't sexy like flying saucers.
Oh, of course not.
But it would still be paradigm shifting information. And if people only knew that NASA scientist Dr. Carol Stoker, who in 2002 published an abstract saying her experiment aboard one of these landers found evidence for chlorophyll, then we might be having, you know, if more people knew that, then we might be having a different story today.
Didn't we come from, am I wrong about this? Because now I know this is, you know, not your field per se, but don't they, if you're subscribing to the whole idea that we, like, you know, came out of the ocean, but, you know, weren't we once microbial life? That's where it started. So
if you're looking at it from a purely evolutionist perspective, sure.
Right. So why is it not sexy? Because what that signifies is that this primordial soup that they tell us about, that if it happened here and it resulted in us eventually, if there's microbes out there on Mars, that's almost like a confirmation that life inevitably, given time, gets to the point that we got to. And if it's happening a planet over, I'm exponentially growing my number of places that it's happening through the universe.
Yes, and in my discussions with the many experts I've spoken to, I have the firm position that what you're alluding to here is not just evolution, but panspermia.
Yes.
We have proven panspermia. There's most of the scientific community has no knowledge of the things that I cover. I have spoken with experts whose credentials shall not be questioned. We have beyond a reasonable doubt, proven panspermia. So I agree that microbial life should be sexy, and maybe I'm just characterizing it wrong. I'm just saying relative, it doesn't. Well, let's just put it this way. Ty, do you ever see these headlines where it says scientists use the James Webb Space Telescope to look at the atmospheres of these planets millions of miles away, orbiting other stars? And they'll say, scientists have found biosignatures in the atmospheres of exoplanets.
Yes.
You ever see stuff like that? Okay.
All the time.
Do you know what they're looking for specifically that makes them think that?
Isn't it the put me on the spot here, and that's gonna make me fucked up. But just tell me, because I know what it is.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. It's something called dimethyl sulfide.
Thank you. Sorry, and that is only produced by life, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So
and guess where they also found dimethyl sulfide?
Mars.
Curiosity rover found it. When it found the organic material, it also found dimethyl sulfide.
Jesus.
So I think this is a big deal. Sounds like you think it's a big deal. This is why I cover this, because most of the world doesn't know this. NASA collects the information. They publish it. They just don't report on it. So it leaves me an opportunity to do so.
Why would okay. My mind is already fried.
Oh man, we haven't even got to the heavy stuff yet.
I know, and I'm gearing myself up. Well, okay. So what comes next? What's the next step? Now we've gone through that microbes exist, that there's water there. We see on Earth that life, it doesn't just find a way, but it's in places that, like, it's in volcanic area. It not only thrives. I mean, it's not only there, but it thrives in the places we would least expect life to thrive. So life finds a way. I mean, it always does. So there's these microbes. There's evidence of even something else on Mars. There's Zion 129, which is indicative of, either nuclear war, whatever. What's your next big thing? What's the next thing that you want to talk about?
Well, but right before we get to that, one has to ask, why hasn't NASA gone back and tested again for microbial life like they did in 1976? In 1976 was the only time NASA ever sent any biology experiments to Mars. We know that they send rovers there, and they keep telling us they're looking for life, but none of these rovers, nothing since 1976, has had a biology test on it. We think that they just want to avoid another public relations mishap. They just don't. They've already set the narrative. Now here we are decades later. They don't want to own up to their mistake. This would be so simple to do, and there are tests, and I'm in touch with Stephen Benner and his team down in Florida, who are actually designing a life detection test that can detect the difference between known and unknown forms of DNA, and would put this thing to bed overnight. We have the technology. Why doesn't NASA want to send it there? Why doesn't SpaceX want to send it there? Logic would dictate you might want to figure out if there's any pathogenic material on Mars before we start sending astronauts there.
Well, someone said it in the chat that those microbes might even kill us when we get there.
That's what I'm saying, right? But they don't want to do this stuff anyway. So we could talk about that all night long. But to advance the conversation here, where do we go from microbes? Well, if Mars was like Earth, it was a blue planet. It had microbes. Did any multicellular life arise from that? And the answer is arguably yes. And I'll just, not only do we have photographic evidence for fossils, Ty, we have a handful of fossils. We actually have evidence for what appear to be machine-like artifacts, debris, things that just don't look like rocks, photographed by the rovers, and large megalithic structures as photographed by the orbiters. Most people have not seen any of this stuff. They know the face on Mars, and that's it. But Ty, we've got a whole lot more stuff. Sorry, your mic was off.
The face on Mars is arguably the most well known.
Yes.
Is that in the Cydonia region?
Yes.
Okay. So I've heard a lot about other structures on Mars.
Mhm.
Remote viewers, the
Mhm.
best of the best when it comes to remote viewers, were asked to look at Mars
Yes.
in the past. Whether you believe in remote viewing or not, some of the things that they've talked about. Pretend I'm the layman. Talk to me about, so what do you mean structures on Mars? Are we talking monoliths? Are we talking ruins of temples? Are we talking pareidolia potentially, where, we know that there's no right angles that are naturally forming typically in the universe. It's not to say it can't happen. It just 99.999% of the time doesn't happen. It's very, very, it just doesn't really happen. It doesn't happen naturally. But, if the Mars rover runs something over and then it looks like a right angle, we're up there now, right? We're doing things. So I think we do need to be careful when, we do see something. We definitely need to analyze it. But okay, what do you mention? So what is there architecture to this stuff? What is going on?
Ty, what everyone needs to understand is that there are these independent researchers that NASA takes all these photographs and then they just publish them online with no commentary, no fanfare, no press release whatsoever. The independent guys out there who spend their free time looking at this stuff, they have day jobs, but they spend free time looking at this stuff. They sift through hundreds, if not thousands, of these images, and they'll find stuff that just doesn't look natural. They'll publish it to the internet and open it up for discussion. And there are a few of them that I'm in touch with who I'd like to highlight today. One of them is, his name is Jean Ward. He's in South Africa. Another guy, Gary Legier. He's in Colorado. There's someone who I think was watching, might be tuned in here, Kari Sievertsen. She just got in the game. She's from Norway. These are the researchers out there, just a few of them. There's more. Okay, Joe White is another one who I don't agree with everything that they find, but these are my heroes here, because these are the guys who and ladies who are actually finding this stuff. And I'm going to show you here in just a second. All right. They're finding all sorts of things, and there's too much to show you all of it. So I just kind of want to show you the best of the best half dozen or so examples. And what I think most people need to see first are the very large structures that, in my opinion, do not appear to be natural. And Carl Sagan has this very famous quote: extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Does it though? Do they though? Or does it just require evidence? Because evidence is evidence, plain and simple.
He's got the quote. Everyone loves posting that. Every time we there's all this. That's what skeptics want to go to first. To which I would respond with, Another quote by Carl Sagan, which he made in his Cosmos TV series and his Cosmos book, which is intelligent life first reveals itself through the geometric regularity of its constructions. Now, what is he talking about? He's saying, if you're an alien in a spaceship looking down on a planet like Earth, how would you first know that there's intelligent life there? You'd start seeing things like city grids, large pyramidal structures, straight lines, things like this, things that just don't appear to be naturally created. And one can reason that if we start to see pyramid shapes, we can discern the difference between a pyramid and a volcano, can't we, Ty? We know the difference.
Sure can.
You're flashing something up here. This is an interesting structure here, which is actually 12 miles away from the face, which is one of the things that they originally photographed in 1976, called the DNM Pyramid, named after its discoverers, DiPietro and Molinar.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about this and why I flashed it is because obviously top down, it just looks like a hill, right? But this is actually, like, if you were on the surface, this is fucking crazy big.
Yes, it's 2.5 miles long.
Like, I think that's where people get a lot of misconceptions about Mars, because, like, we're looking top down and you don't get that always that depth. But yeah, present some of the stuff that you want to show us, of course.
That one's a complicated one because that's actually a 5-sided structure and it requires a little bit more explanation than I want to get into tonight. I want to stick with simpler stuff.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because I just think it might be a little bit easier to grasp for people who've never seen any of this stuff. But first, Ty, can you tell the difference between, if you're looking top-down satellite imagery, okay? Do you think you're the type of person who can tell the difference between a pyramid and a volcano?
Yes.
A pyramid and a mountain?
Yes.
A pyramid and a hill?
Yes.
Okay? I think most people have enough common sense to be able to tell the difference. Now, how would you define what a pyramid is? If you were explaining what a pyramid is, what is a pyramid?
Like the definition of what?
Yeah, like how would you describe its shape?
A pyramid is it's a three-dimensional, essentially it's a geometrical triangle that well, now I'm gonna sound like an idiot, but
something with 4 sides.
Four sides. Yeah. It has 4 sides.
4 equal sides.
4 equal sides that rise up and form a point at the top.
Right.
The base is always wider than the point, of course.
Sure.
But yes, 4 equal size triangles that come to a point. Yes.
Okay. So
sorry, I sounded like an idiot. I tried to sound smart, but then I sounded dumb.
You know what it is. You know it when you see it, right?
Absolutely.
Now, when we in the Mars disclosure community post images of these structures online, we'll oftentimes get people saying, "Oh no, we have natural-looking pyramidal shapes here on Earth," and they'll post an example of a photograph taken at ground level, looking at the side of a mountain. Okay, and sometimes they just look like a perfect triangle. But when you take a look at the orbital photograph of that same structure, it's asymmetrical. There's no equal sides. There's none of that. Okay. Right. They just got lucky on one ground level shot. It kind of looks like a triangle. Okay. So when we're discerning the difference here, we have the great fortune of having an abundance of orbital satellite photography, which demonstrates the symmetry and geometric regularity that Carl Sagan is talking about. And I'm going to show you stuff that, in my opinion, is undeniable. And I don't think most people have ever seen this stuff, which is why I get so excited. My mind is blown as to why we're not all talking about this more. But anyway, so instead of talking more about it, let me just show you. May I present my screen?
Please do, my friend.
Okay. So let's see. Is this here? Share screen. Here, let's do this. Share screen. Okay. Let's see. Is it screen 2? Yes. Here we go. Okay. Ty. Tell me what you see here. These are pyramids.
Jesus Christ.
Do they look like pyramids, though? Be honest.
No.
That's right. But guess what? They are in Egypt.
What the fuck?
These are certified pyramids
Wait.
in Egypt. Okay? I'm showing you this first before we show you the other stuff because I want to make a point.
What the fuck?
These things are mostly reduced to rubble. You wouldn't know these things are a pyramid unless we got boots on the ground and knew the history, right? Because none of these appear to be pyramidal in shape.
Not top down, no.
Okay? Yet we still accept these as pyramids.
Okay. Right. I know all of them.
This is what they look like from the top down.
Wow.
All right? Wow. They don't look like much.
The only one that really does is the Hawara.
Yeah.
And that's like,
kind of square.
That's really not even, like, I wouldn't really, like, that wouldn't stand out to me either, though.
It's not impressive, is it?
No, not even close. No. I feel so dumb right now.
It's okay. It's okay. This is my trick question up front sort of thing because I want to get people acclimated.
That's an awe factor. Clip that.
I got to get people acclimated to what they're about to see because as it relates to Mars, this concept of there being pyramids on Mars is so unsettling for people that they just want to reject it outright. Well, NASA hasn't said there's pyramids on Mars. I'm not going to believe you, person who I've never heard of. Even despite it looking exactly like what a pyramid should look like, I'm going to do the mental gymnastics in my head to make myself believe that what I'm seeing isn't true.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
We can, okay. So here's have you seen this before? This is on Earth.
Yes. This is,
wait
a second. Where are we here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Is this a step pyramid?
This is on the other side of the world in Mexico.
Yeah, this is part of the, okay, so this is South America.
The area known as Teotihuacan.
Yes, okay.
Oh, did we lose it?
No, it's there.
You there, Ty?
Yeah, I'm here. I can still see it. Can you guys hear me? Chat, can we
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Can you see me?
Yeah. Who glitched?
I don't know.
Oh.
Sorry. I don't know I don't know what happened. Nothing happened here. It just kind of froze there.
Chat, let me know. Was it him or me? Because I just want to know for my sake.
Spooky stuff happening again.
Yeah. Was it? I know, guys. I know someone glitched, but which one? Was it him or me? But go ahead, continue. Oh, it's him. Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know what's happening.
No, I wasn't trying to put you on the spot or anything.
No, it's okay. Yeah, no problem.
You know.
So Ty, this is the Pyramid of the Moon in the ancient area of Mexico known as Teotihuacan. There's Pyramid of the Moon, a Pyramid of the Sun. This is the Teotihuacan site. Now, what do we see here? We see a obviously four-sided pyramid structure. But what's interesting is that we also have what's connected to it here is this front part. I don't know what you want to call it, but this front stepped part, right?
Yes.
So it's this giant pyramid with this front stepped part. Now, if you were to imagine what this would look like with, let's say, 500 million years of dust blown on top of it, you might imagine that the edges won't be so sharp.
Correct.
Right? It might be a little rounded off. It's not going to be in pristine condition. We just saw the Egyptian pyramids, which are only thousands of years old, which are nowhere near good shape. Okay. So we don't have any vegetation problems on Mars that would cover this up and make it look like a hill, as unexcavated pyramids tend to look like. But if we just imagine dust accumulation, there's still a little bit of wind that blows around dust and grains of sand everywhere on Mars. So if you just imagine what that might look like, well, is it inconceivable that this?
Holy shit. Holy shit.
Would be a pyramid?
Holy shit.
Now, how big do you think that is?
Well, that's my problem with these top-down shots. I really have no reference frame. So just I mean, it looks small. But do you know what I mean though? It looks
I know.
small.
I know. It's hard
I know that the
it's hard to tell scale
is so much bigger than what we like. Our eyes play tricks. So tell me, how big is this thing on the left?
Okay. First of all, what do we see here? We see a square shape. All sides are equal. We see 4 triangular faces, all rising to an apex.
All rising to an apex, and we even have a little bulge in the front.
Right. We even have a little bulge. Exactly. Okay. This was discovered by South African Jean Ward. Okay. And this comparison, I have another buddy, George Haas, who linked these two. So shout out to those guys. This is 2.5 miles wide.
You gotta be fucking kidding me. Are you serious?
It's clearly not a volcano. Volcanoes don't have 4 equal flat triangular sides. It's not connected to any other mountain range. It's standalone, and that's the other thing. These things are standalone. They're not connected. It's sometimes you'll have a mountain peak that peaks and it looks like a pyramid at the very peak. But then if you look at the total landscape, it's people like to show this thing in Antarctica all the time. I'm like, that's clearly a mountain peak from a mountain range. This is not. Volcanoes on Mars look a lot like volcanoes on Earth. They're round with a caldera at the center.
Yeah.
Right?
It's very clear. And volcano, yeah, I agree.
Okay. So this is a NASA photograph, and we've published on this. We cite the sources. You can go and look at this for yourself. Okay. This is the incredible work of this community. They're finding stuff like this. NASA publishes it. They don't talk about it. Leaves it to the independent. Okay. So next, unless you want to have any other questions about this, Ty.
No, please.
Okay. I'm just showing you the best of the best here.
Yeah, let's.
Here's an example of another another orbiter photograph. Okay. The satellite is up in outer space and it's looking straight down. Now you might notice something.
Directly in the center.
It's not too hard to see, is it?
My eye goes directly to it because it stands out so fucking much, because it's the only fucking thing in the picture that has a shape.
Exactly.
Like a shape, meaning a shape that is recognizable.
It's a geometric shape.
And you can see the dust drift.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can see those things that look like ripples.
Right.
Randall Carson talks about this. You know, we get that when with dust and sandstorms, but we also get it with high velocity water.
Right, like sand dunes or ripples. Right.
Yeah.
All over the place. These are all amorphous.
And then there's just a perfect. What is that?
So how many sides does it look like it has?
It genuinely looks like it only has 3 sides, which is throwing me off.
That's right. So not all pyramids on Mars have 4 sides. Now, if we take a closer look at this, Ty.
God damn it, man. What the fuck?
Now, skeptics will push back on this, especially NASA geologists, and they'll say, well, it's not in pristine shape like our pyramids are here on Earth. So therefore it's natural. Now, I wonder what wind or water or geological process would make a 3 equal-sided tetrahedron in the middle of nowhere connected to nothing else. You can see the sand here. Look at the sand dunes. The wind is blowing a certain way. I don't see how it makes this out of nothing, out of you know what I mean?
Dude, what the fuck? My mind is I've seen some of this stuff before, but I can't wrap my head around this.
This was actually discovered a quarter century ago, and just most people haven't seen it because there hasn't been enough attention on Mars, which is, I'm trying to change that, and thanks to you for giving me this time to demonstrate this, because these guys need more.
We need. There's no doctoring in these at all.
Right.
Where are we obtaining these photos?
I'm downloading them directly from NASA's websites. They have multiple different websites depending on what instrument they're using. I source everything. Everybody can go look at this for themselves.
I was going to say, so I could independently pull this image and it would look exactly like this.
And if you can't find a link on my webpage or YouTube or something, you can just contact me on Twitter or email me, and I'll be happy to provide that to you. I do my best. Every time I publish something, we're totally transparent about this. We're publishing the source URL. You can go and look at this stuff up for yourself. So, all right.
Very interesting.
All right, next one. Ready? Oh, here's just a different shot of it in color.
That's that same thing?
Same thing, just a different angle of it. Okay.
Are we still top down for the most part?
It's not precisely above. You can see it's at a slight angle here, and it obviously is not in pristine condition. But NASA tells us, Ty, that Mars lost its water 3.5 billion years ago, which I assume means whoever was living there didn't live
much longer than that.
Much longer than that. So if I'm taking their timeline, these things are over 3 billion years old. Now,
and
even if I...
And again, I see where you're going with this. This is 3 billion years of like dust storms and, outside impacts and, kicking shit up. And I mean,
right.
This is kind of what you'd expect like the Giza pyramid to look like if we disappeared tomorrow and the next people came along 3 billion years after.
Or even, let's just say conservatively, 50 million years.
Yeah, right. Even 50 million years. Like look at something like Göbekli Tepe or any of the tepes.
Right. We're only talking about 10, 15,000 years.
Completely buried. Guys, chickens start going missing, disappearing through a hole in his wall. And then pop, they find an underground city.
Right. Exactly.
Like, guys, is it really that hard to wrap your fucking heads around?
So we have the great fortune, Ty, of Mars. Essentially, the surface of Mars is essentially preserved because there's very little weathering and erosional forces that can happen because the atmosphere is so thin that all it can really do is have dust devils and blow around sand and fine particles. But still, there's going to be some amount of accumulation that happens on these structures and some amount of erosion, especially over eons of time. So I'm not bothered that these are not in pristine condition. Obviously, there's enough symmetry and geometric regularity here that you can rewind the clock in your mind, use your imagination to figure out what this might have looked like before, and understand that, at least here on Earth, no natural process creates such structures. Period. Right. Got a few more.
My mind.
Ready for the next one?
Sure am, baby.
Okay. Again, here's an orbiter photograph. All right. Now this is actually a composite of multiple photographs. You can kind of see where the outlines of them are stitched together based on multiple. This is covering a very wide area, and I think something like this we capture. Google Earth, their Google Earth Pro program actually has a Mars setting. You can actually analyze Mars the same way you would with Earth. So to get these top
Google
down
Mars, right?
Yeah. So this is probably taken from that program, which is why you see these stitched together things. But this is all NASA's doing. Okay, I didn't do this. NASA put this together. But again, it should be obvious, just at a glance. Like, what do we see here? Ty, what do we see? We see this landscape. It's got meteor impacts all over the place, right?
Yeah, so I was going to say, but they also oddly don't seem to be deeper or shallower than any of the ones around it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't really go into the depth of these meteors, but you can obviously see the ejecta, right?
Yes.
There's an impact, and the ejecta goes out. You can see this everything that's been splashed out of it.
Right. So these kind of seem like pock marks where they're, they're hitting, and there's, yeah, exactly.
Okay. So if a meteor comes down, Ty, and makes an impact crater 2.5 miles wide, that's a big explosion. You would think that anything directly adjacent to that impact would be destroyed.
Wiped out.
So can you see anything next to a crater that
yes.
doesn't look like it should be there?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to zoom in. It's right there in the center.
Yes.
To this thing.
What the fuck, dude? Come on. You got to be kidding me. This look come on.
I know, man. I know. This has some interesting history to it. This is known as simply Crater Pyramid. This is a high contrast visual. I have a better visual coming for you in just a moment. But this crater is 2.5 miles wide, and this structure is 1.7 miles wide. Now, already you can kind of see we've got triangular sides here, equal flat sides. It is a bit round here, but again, what does 1 million or 500 million years worth of sediment deposits look like on a perfectly, organized structure?
Right.
The logic being, had this thing existed before this impact, it would have been annihilated.
Annihilated.
So it doesn't have a caldera at the top. It is not conical. It has sides to it. It is not a volcano. And
wait. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
What are you saying came first?
Well, logic would dictate that the crater came first. And either Mother Nature decided it wanted to spring up a symmetrical four-sided pyramid structure right on the lip of it, or somebody had the idea that they wanted to build something on the lip of it
and make it a sacred place of some sort. That how could you not? And building that like that, you would have to be able to appreciate what it looks like top down, right? Like you'd think that whoever was looking at that would be like, I want to create this. And we see this in our own pyramids, right? The precision that mathematically they are mirroring cosmology and mathematical precision. This seems like one of those kind of things where it's built not because, it's not built next to, but it's built because of, right?
And I've got my own idea about why it's so damn close to this thing. And I'm inspired by the work of Jeffrey.
It does look like the Signs logo.
Do you know Jeffrey Drum of the Land of Chem?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. He's talking about the Egyptian pyramids being these chemical factories.
Yep.
Okay. One of his main theses is that the Great Pyramid needed to be in close proximity to a water source because it had to,
yeah.
right? What would this crater have been filled with back when it was a blue planet?
Ooh.
That's what I like to go with. Now, I don't spend a whole lot of time messaging on that, but I'm like, well, if I'm going to borrow something from that logic, that makes sense to me. All right, now let's take a close bet. We got a better. This was taken a quarter century ago. Let's take a better look. They re-imaged this with better resolution cameras.
What the fuck?
Okay, and you can see the sides better here. It's a better contrast. All right, and it is right on the lip of this crater, and you can see there's no damage. There's no damage to this thing. I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. Straight lines rising to an apex.
How is this? I mean, do you think they've had rovers go up to these and confirm this and they're just not telling us?
No. I don't think they're purposefully avoiding these locations with the rovers. Now, interestingly enough, we have a bit
come on, Brian. Brian, you're gonna tell me you think that they are not doing absolutely everything they can outside of the public eye to find out what the fuck that thing is?
I don't think they need a rover to figure that out.
Well, agreed. Like some sort of secret space initiative.
It is certainly possible. Again, Ty, I try to keep my messaging to the nuts and bolts.
Fair enough. All right.
And the interesting thing about this is you talked about you mentioned the remote viewers. Okay, Joe McMoneagle, right?
Yep.
And Ingo Swann, he had a team. Okay, this is the Stargate program, and they were talking about remote viewing Mars, right?
Yeah, I think one. What was it? One.
Yeah,
1 million years BC or something like that.
Joe McMoneagle, to clarify, Joe McMoneagle was tasked to view Mars 1 million years BC. Okay, and then most people miss this part, but then his monitor asks. Joe McMoneagle says, I'm seeing the after effects of a cataclysm here. And then his monitor says, well, go back to the time before the cataclysm. And then that's where his, viewing picks up from. But regardless, yes, it's a long time in the past.
And didn't he say that he saw beings there and one of the beings saw him?
Yes, he did. But the pyramid that he saw was this one. This is the one that he was talking about.
Whoa!
This specific
one. No way.
And if you go on YouTube, you can find a clip of Joe McMoneagle giving a presentation showing this same exact pyramid, talking about this, telling you everything I'm telling you now.
And if we're to believe what he saw was real, then he saw beings inhabiting that area.
Perhaps.
Again,
I don't know if it was this area or another area, but he remote viewed it. Then he got the coordinates and went to JPL and found, he calls them negatives, but he found the photographic evidence. And what he looked at before was, the one I showed you just a second ago, this thing. But this is later image. But it is this precise one that he and Ingo Swann's team remote viewed, and they all reported the same thing. Large megalithic structure, 1.7 miles wide. And here's the best part. NASA has actually commented on this one here. And what they say is that they consider this to be a geological term known as a KAME, K-A-M-E. All right. Or a knob. another word that they use.
They really,
KNOB.
they, they,
Knob is a more common way of saying came. These are geological terms, but they are both used to describe essentially what amounts to a glacial deposit.
and some other
Glaciers
deposits.
glaciers pick stuff up when they move, and then when they melt away, this is all the stuff that's left after they melt away. Now, I don't know how Mother Nature would pick up a bunch of rocks and debris, loose rocks and debris, form a symmetrical pyramid with 4 equal flat sides, 1.7 miles wide. I don't know how a glacier does that. That to me sounds like bullshit. But that's the best that NASA has. NASA wants to frame everything into geological context. Clearly, that's nonsense.
I agree. I couldn't agree more.
All right, just a few more here.
Oh, I'm loving this.
Okay, same kind of thing. Big landscape. This is a composite of multiple images. You can see these giant craters here. You know, this crater here is probably 8 miles wide, let's say.
And then directly in the middle again,
What do you see?
a fucking pyramid.
Something just doesn't look.
Something I spy with my little eye, something that doesn't fit the surroundings.
Yup. So if we
Especially when it's contrasted with a bunch of fucking circles.
Yup. It's not. Do you see any mountain ranges in here?
Not that I'd be able to identify.
I mean, you know what a mountain range looks like. You look at Google Maps often enough to be like, oh, look, there's the Colorado Rockies, right? You know what a mountain range looks like.
Yeah, I don't see any elevated any elevated landscapes that would indicate that there's
something here. Like this is elevated clearly, but that's like an amorphous hill or mesa or something like that. But it's clearly geometric or rather geological.
Yeah.
But this thing here in the center, immediately we can tell there's something different about it. So let's zoom into that, shall we?
Shall we?
Okay, that thing, yes, that thing right there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right, bro.
Imagine if it's 500 million years old, conservatively speaking. From one side to another, each side on perpendicular sides is 1.8 miles. We have 4 flat triangular sides, all rising to an apex. We have opposing 90-degree angles. It is not part of a mountain range. And if you notice, Ty, there's craters all over the place, but not really on this thing.
Yeah, can you
you see that?
Can you zoom out a little bit?
Yeah.
So see this this like it almost looks like the line continues up and down
this here
into the land. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I wonder what that is.
Good question.
Maybe like water runoff, where there was like a little bit of a lake or something. Again, so assuming that, you know, these things were built near water at one point, to some degree. Right. That one, I'll admit, this one is probably the one I'm going to have the most hard time with.
So, yeah. No.
I don't know why. I can't exactly explain why, but I can't deny that there are 4 distinct triangular shapes pointing to an apex,
right,
with no discernible mountain range or elevation around. And in fact, it's the opposite. It looks like it's been checkered with impact.
Here's a comparison for
Gee,
Giza.
that looks a lot.
Now,
Like,
it looks like it's eroded or damaged or something here, but
right. This could be the worst one look wise. Like
sure,
this could be the one that took the most damage. We don't know.
right.
Interesting. This makes me feel better about it right now. I don't know why.
I'm gonna bring up. We actually have a tool that lets us view this in 3D, Ty, which I have to show you because just bear with me one moment while I bring that up.
That's fine. Guys, what in the chat, what do you guys think? What are you guys thinking of these structures on Mars? I really want to know. This is for me. Oh, wait one sec. This is really for me and me asking. But we haven't even got. He showed me this one picture of something in the atmosphere of Mars, which I can't wait till we get to. But with these, essentially, one of the things I've had a tough time with over our ancient civilizations, what we were taught in school is that most of these cultures did not have any contact with each other because the distances were too great. Yet they all built the same exact structure. Now, you could hypothetically say, the 100th monkey, right? Once that knowledge is there, it's there for everyone to grab. That's why when someone breaks a world record, someone breaks that record right after that. And then again after that. And then it might get held for some time. But it seems that, and that's exactly why, a monkey halfway across the world who learns to smash a coconut with a rock, it happens simultaneously. Now, of course, we're talking, what we're most likely referring to here is some sort of quantum field that we can't see. Whether you call it the ether, the source, the muse, I don't know what it really is, but it seems that once it's unlocked, even going back to the biological 5-pointed being, right? Once that works it works everywhere. And that's what it seems to be. So these pyramids that we see all over our every continent, every single continent has these structures. Is this just the best way to build something tall, big base coming to an apex? Potentially. But tell me how they did it. They did not, they certainly didn't do it with wet sand and rollers, placing a block every 1 minute for 20 years straight. Get the fuck out of here with that. Stop acting like I'm a child. I'm not dumb. That's not how those were made.
So, but Ty,
I'm sorry, let me just finish this one point.
Yeah.
If we start confirming that there are pyramids on other celestial objects in our solar system, the implications of that alone, of what this could be some sort of global, not even global, I'm sorry, interplanetary system of free energy. Who knows? But isn't that what life is? Chasing those fucking mysteries? Why are we letting science dictate what we look at? And why do we let these fucking people tell us what's true or not? This is incredible. Let's go out and fucking stop pretending that we're not spinning on a fucking rock, hurtling through space, and that taking this breath, the next one and the next one, isn't a miracle in itself. And it shouldn't happen. we stop pretending. Just because you fear the unknown doesn't make it less real. So sorry, that was my little tangent.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you. I had to find the link I was looking for.
Did I
here.
give you enough time?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Caltech actually has mapped all of this imagery onto a 3-dimensional model. You can go look at Mars in 3D and manipulate it. So we're zooming up on the same thing here, and I just want to show you what this looks like. And by the way, this was found by a gentleman in Colorado. His name is Gary Legier. He does great work. I've highlighted him on my YouTube channel. He has a great YouTube channel too. So I want to give a shout out to I'm not the person who discovered these things, but there are independent researchers out there who do. I just want to mention that. So, but if we look at Caltech's 3-dimensional rendering of this, Ty, look at what happens when we start to look at this thing from the side. There's nothing else like it in the area. It might be a little bit damaged on one side, but if you start to look at it in context, does Mother Nature do stuff like this? Put up something? Now, what they're basing this is, they're using the shadows and the lights to try to render a 3-dimensional thing. I think you're on mute.
So they're essentially doing what a visual effects artist would do, and they're pulling from real still images, and they're using mathematical formulas to create the depth and what so this is the most accurate representation, I would say, that we're gonna get.
So look, you can see based on the craters, the wind is blowing in one direction here, right? It's just blowing this way.
There's no, am I mistaken in saying this? Is there no tectonic shifting?
Yeah, Mars isn't tectonically active like Earth is. And
so I mean it's not pushing mountains and shit up, right?
Well, even if it were, Ty, we'd see entire mountain ranges.
Well, that's what I'm getting to. So but there's none of that.
I don't know what makes something like this in nature that is
nothing.
It's not connected to anything else. It's in the middle of nowhere.
Technology makes this.
How does it just spring up like that? And oh, by the way, again, we have another rare moment where NASA comments on this, not by any public acknowledgement like a press release, but by what they title it on their website. Can you see this?
Wait, what is this?
This is where you go and you download this image from. The University of Arizona had the high-rise camera, okay, is on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, and the University of Arizona runs this. Okay, so for all intents and purposes, this is where you download the NASA imagery is from the University of Arizona's website for this particular mission. Okay, and this is what, look, NASA, JPL, Caltech, University of Arizona. So this is what they call it. So you just mentioned the P word. You mentioned the P word a few minutes ago, pareidolia. Are we just seeing things? Well, clearly we're not seeing things. Even NASA says, hey, this looks like a pyramid.
Right.
There's no other way to describe it.
That's their words.
Exactly.
Their words is pyramidal mound. Now, they are kind of doing a conundrum there by saying pyramidal mound. I see what they're doing there, but it's almost like they're putting it in your face, and then it almost like lets them sleep at night, right?
Yes, there is no such thing as a pyramidal mound.
Yeah, that doesn't work like that. I'm sorry. But so putting those things together, it's like they're telling you, but they have to call it a mound because it's a pyramid.
They have to try to contextualize it using geology to make everyone feel better.
Right, because again, going back to that fear of the unknown. Because if we say these are pyramids, the immediate next question is, from who?
From who built them? Exactly.
From who?
I got one more pyramid and then we can go to UFOs.
Fuck yeah, man. By the way, might be the best. I don't want to, guys, stay for the UFO stuff. Might be one of the best UFO shots I've ever seen, because there's nothing that's supposed to be there. So, all right, continue.
Okay, I want to give a shout out again to Gary Legier in Colorado. He's the one who found this next one. Here we go. This is just a quick comparison. China has a bunch of these pyramids with the large flat top. They're all over the place in China.
So it's like a regular pyramid. It's just that the pointy part is kind of like chopped off.
Right. And they've got dozens of these things just scattered all over the landscape. China doesn't really like to acknowledge this or talk about it, but
yeah, they won't admit it, right?
Right. So, but they exist. And in our opinion, this find here matches closely this sort of thing here that we see in China. Again, we have opposing 90-degree angles. This is over 2 miles long. I don't know what in nature makes 2 miles long opposing 90-degree angles, 4 equal flat triangular sides leading up to an apex, which is flat. I don't know how you look at this and say there's nothing to see here. Now, what you notice here off in the corner is that there's an impact crater.
Again.
Okay. Now, maybe this one came, maybe
right,
this side is damaged a little bit or eroded. It's hard to tell, but
I would say if we drew a line, right, from the other side down, that would come pretty close to the lip of that. And that seems to be a theme, or that these things are built near these.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting detail. I don't know what to make of it, but it's an interesting detail.
But this, in my opinion, all these are much better condition than these.
Which, this is fucking crazy to me. This one on the top, by the way, the Hawara pyramid, that one reminds me is there any way we can compare the Hawara to the last pyramid you showed me on Mars? Because I think those ones look the most similar.
Sure. Let me just get another.
I don't want to make you do it off the cuff, but
no, it's okay.
I think Hawara and that last pyramid, those are like, they almost look like carbon copies of each other. Not this one, the second to last one.
Oh,
the one that's in the middle of nowhere. One that we had the 3D rendering of. Look at that. Look at those two things. Even the divots look similar.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Look, even the divots look very fucking close to each other. So that's why when I saw that last one, I was like, oh God, those really looked close.
That's a good thing. I didn't notice that before. How about that?
Yeah, the way the lines form and the way that they divot down and stuff, it gives me very similar vibes.
So all I'm saying is that, look, if we're accepting that these Egyptian degraded pyramids are in fact pyramids, why is it so hard to it's because that it's on Mars, and that's scary. Why are there pyramids on Mars? There shouldn't be pyramids on Mars. NASA told us it's just rocks and wind.
It's not. I don't think it is. There's I think there's if the courts are accepting of, I hope you use that in your presentation going forward, because those two things, because you could show someone, all right, he trick them, make them believe that that's the Hawara, and that is the one on Mars.
Right. That's good.
Yeah, and then switch it and be like, no, it's actually this one and this one.
Ty, buy me some time. I gotta go to the bathroom real quick.
Yeah,
I'll be back in just 6 seconds.
So I don't know if anyone could tell me that is not exactly what we're seeing here. Look at that in depth. Come here. So This is, come here. So this is a pyramid on Mars. This is a structure on Mars. That is top down on a pyramid on Egypt, in Egypt. Why? You did any no? And that's obviously the Giza pyramid. But I pointed out that this is that I was like, oh, these look very very similar, but don't pay attention to that. But these two, that one's on Mars, one's on Earth, and they look like so. It's we accept that. We go, okay, we know that's a pyramid. That was built as a pyramid, but they won't concede that this thing on Mars could potentially be a pyramid. And I think I find that to be crazy. Right? We're actually live right now, so sorry, I was explaining it, guys. This is, I mean, again, I've always said this thing about the cosmos reflecting, just reflecting from a macro to down to the micro. And I forget who showed me it this one time, but have you ever looked at the Giza pyramid top, the whole complex, the Great Pyramid like complex? When you look at it top down and then look at a circuit board or like a circuit, it looks very similar. And I've always kind of, thought about that and, wondered deeply. But okay, Brian, you're back. Now we're on to the goods.
Okay. At a glance, you guys, everyone here knows the gimbal UFO footage. This was leaked by Elizondo, right?
Elizondo, Chris Mellon, and then to the New York Times it went. And yes, but the video had been online prior, but it was in like obscure sites and no one could really ever find it. Like, no one ever knew if it was real or not.
So we have a disc shape with a bulbous midsection, essentially, flying around.
Which rotates,
right. And at a glance, here's just a sampling of similar shapes found in the sky of Mars.
Wait, are you saying that everything that's on the side frames is in the atmosphere has been caught in the atmosphere of Mars?
Yes.
You gotta be, you're joking.
So this is.
Are you sure it's not like Saturn?
I can show you the full photo. We can go through each one of these. Just at a glance, this is what gets me so excited and why total disclosure, Ty, should include Mars, because we're seeing these same shapes.
Listen, man, that's why I named the show Total Disclosure, because I'm not fighting for just one truth, but all truth, right? So Mars disclosure is my disclosure too. We're in this together, brother.
That's right.
That's why I talk to people, even my producer gets upset with me when I do the 9/11 shows. But dude, because he's a patriot. I'm actually sitting on his side of the studio tonight because I wanted to watch the ghosts that way. Anyone who knows the show will get that reference. But yeah, I told Brian that he had to pretend he didn't hear that joke because I said it before the show. He laughed on cue, which was pretty good. Good job, man. But he gets mad at me for doing those shows, but I'm like, dude, I'm not fighting for just one thing. Like, I'm fighting for like what happened to JFK, what happened to MLK, what happened to what's going on with Mars, what because if anything, what it is it shows you the playing field and the vice the grip that those in power have on the population, that they're able to keep all this shit from us. Like the people in the UFO field keep thinking, oh, well, look at look what they're hiding from us. It's like, dog, that's only one facet. Like all of our lives are essentially this fucking fake reality, this like pop-up world for the deep state to run cover. It's like, it's sad, but it's, look at it. We go to work 9 to 5 and we waste away at a job we typically hate. That's what 90% of us do. Luckily, me and him, no. We found our calling. More people need to do that. But like, wake up. Like, seriously, wake the fuck up. Sorry, continue.
I want to give a shout out to Jean Ward in South Africa and another gentleman by the name of Joe White, who found all of these that we're looking at today. And I don't know if Kari is still watching, Kari in Norway, but since I published my YouTube video on this, she's found a half dozen more just like this. So she's doing a great job finding even more. But it's this disc shape with a bulbous midsection that catches our eye. And if we were to go through and look at these all in context, Ty, then we could view them in context and explain away the conventional explanations as to what skeptics might claim that they are.
Well, because 90% of that would be things that can't exist there.
So here's a typical rover photograph, but if you have a keen eye,
yeah, I can already see something that is
see
very clearly between me, the camera,
yeah,
and that elevated range. There's something hanging below the horizon above the surface.
Right. So if we zoom in here,
dude, you gotta be fucking kidding. Like, you gotta be kidding me, man.
This is an unadulterated raw image.
You gotta be kidding me.
What do we see? We see a disc shape with a bulbous midsection. Okay. Now, I want to be clear here. We have the great fortune of having raw images in and just by themselves are able to demonstrate the anomalous aspect of the photo, which is what draws our eye to begin with. Okay. Some of these people working with these images just so happen to be imaging experts and can help improve the quality of the image by using a process known as deconvolution. Are you familiar with deconvolution?
I don't think so. Can you enlighten me?
Deconvolution is a process where they'll take an image that looks slightly blurry or out of focus and make it in focus. Okay, NASA has used this.
So it's is there any? What are we doing to achieve that?
So okay. There is modern day software right now called Gigapixel, which is made by a company known as Topaz Labs. All right.
I know Topaz. Yeah.
Okay. NASA uses this software to deconvolute imagery that they take of, from their telescopes and such. All right.
So I would assume what they're doing is they are collecting on a base level the pixels, right? Looking at the pixelation and then kind of smoothing that part out.
Here, can you see this? Or oops. Can you see this crater?
Ah.
Okay. This was taken long before any AI tools existed. All right. They trained the computer software to help resolve the image quality a little bit better. So this is from, look, this is a Wikipedia article on deconvolution. This stuff was invented in the 70s. Okay. They started doing this 50 years ago, and this is an old photograph. So NASA uses this on their own images because they understand that it can resolve these images, essentially enhancing the quality, but it's not mischaracterizing what it is that we're seeing. Does that make
No,
sense?
very much so. Like it's not taking too much. It's taking far less liberty than I anticipated.
Right.
Even with, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like in the bottom corners, it seems to accentuate some of the bulges a bit. Like in the not in the main image, like not in the main center of the image, but the further you go out towards the edge, unless the crop ratio I'm seeing is different, like the little circle towards the bottom right, it seems far bigger than what it looks like in the original. I don't know if that's just my eyes getting messed with, but is this the same exact ratio?
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're seeing. I just see the side by side here.
Yeah, okay, but I guess it's too hard to point out.
You see a crater here.
Yeah, no, that the 1-to-1 on that is I think
Okay.
doesn't take liberty. It's not adding things that it shouldn't.
Right.
It's
Right.
it's a very, 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 very good enhancement.
Yeah. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make here is that this is something that NASA themselves use. They see this as a legitimate form of enhancing the quality of the images that they take with their own instruments. All right. Now, what I'm telling you is that these independent Mars researchers use the same exact tool that NASA does to enhance the quality of the images because, believe it or not, the rover photographs are not high resolution. They're quite low. So what we are presented with is a lot of this grain and pixelation that happens when you
Yeah,
zoom way up on these things. Okay, I'm telling you this now because what I'm going to show you are deconvoluted images when we zoom into the. I'll zoom into it. I'll show you the before, but then I'm going to show you the after once we've deconvoluted. Does that make sense?
that makes total sense.
All
And
right.
for anyone, I just want to take this time. I should have said this at the top of the show. I can't believe I'm saying it 2.5 hours in. For anyone listening to this, you should come to YouTube. And this is a highly actually, you know what? I don't even know if I'm going to put this on but no, I will. I'll put it on the audio platforms, but this is a very visual episode. The and just head over to YouTube, link in the description. You gotta see this stuff, man.
I know, right?
You gotta, because if you had told me that this is Arizona, right? This picture
Right.
that we're looking at right now,
Right.
I would say that might be a balloon, a bird. I might say a balloon, a bird, a plane, right? All those things, they're on Mars, impossible.
Right.
So what is that?
I know. All I'm saying is that it looks awfully similar to the gimbal UFO. That's all I'm saying. So if we're having congressional hearings over the gimbal UFO footage and saying that's a UFO flying saucers type deal,
So is
I
that.
I think we need to be taking a serious look at Mars. So again, this is where it starts. We got some good show and tell here, okay? But if we zoom in and deconvolute the image, we can kind of get a better quality of it, okay?
Jesus.
You know
But
what I mean?
but did it also not put grass?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be perfect here, So it has to resolve it somehow. Um,
But do you see, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. The liberty.
yeah,
The
yes,
liberty that takes. Um
but does it change the overall shape of this dramatically? What do we
no, I
see
agree it
here?
does not. I agree it does not.
Even the raw image, we can make out disc bulbous center, right? So
All
coming
right,
in
back
through
to this
here,
one.
that's what we're looking at. It doesn't really take too much liberty, like you're saying. All right, so that's that one. Next one.
Whoa. Whoa. That is way too close to that hill. What the fuck? That looks like a Vimana. You ever heard of the ancient description of I can't even speak, a Vimana?
No.
This looks either this is like a triangular craft that we are seeing from like, back end, maybe a little tilted upward because we're lower in elevation. So we're kind of seeing underneath it, but we're also seeing the backside of it.
Right.
Unless that's what we're seeing. I mean, this looks like an upside down pyramid.
Yeah, kind of.
Right? Or
Yeah.
a gimbal craft, like you said. But
Yeah. Right.
that wow.
But clearly it's an anomaly, and we can address the what people might call the conventional explanations as to why I don't think any of them apply here.
No.
I,
What could that possibly be in the Mars?
This it's just a clear image here. People want to go to it's dust on the lens.
Oh.
Okay. Which, if you know anything about photography, that doesn't hold any water because dust on the lens does not present as these precise shapes. At best, it might blur the image a little bit, but the camera is focused so far out that anything directly on the lens, you really don't even see.
Yeah, the depth perception, it wouldn't show, it would not show the depth that when you zoom in, the pixelation of the actual, that's how you can tell that is something that's actually in camera, because the closer that you zoom in, the more pixelated it also gets. So a piece of dust that was closer would start to look like a circle. Like it would start to look like a blur.
Right. Yeah.
That is not happening here.
And for those, I have it that my video that I did on this, I demonstrate this by recording the whole video with a lot of dust on my camera lens. And you can't see it at all. Okay, I've got 200 specks of dust over the whole lens. I didn't bother to clean it off, and I took a photo of it so you can see it in the video to see what I recorded with. You don't see you're not aware of it. So dust on the lens doesn't hold water. Dead pixels also doesn't hold water because if it's a dead pixel, it's one pixel and it's there forever in every single photograph. The thing about these things are they'll take a series of images. Let's just say they'll take 12 images in a row and it only appears in, let's just say, one of them. Okay. And these images are all 12 seconds apart. That's how the NASA rovers do it. So it's not a dead pixel. Otherwise it would be there forever on every single image. Is it what's known as a camera artifact? No, I can show you what a camera artifact looks like. That's later in this presentation, but we know it's not that either. There's a distinct difference between these things here and what a camera artifact renders as. And the only other explanation that people want to try to throw out is that it's something called a cosmic ray burst. And I know it's not that either because I could show you what that looks like, and you can see that it doesn't look like this either. So let me cycle through some more of these, Ty, then I'll get to those last two in just a second. That's deconvoluted. Okay.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
This one's funky. It's got a little tail.
Wow.
In the sky.
Wow.
Oh, here's what I'm talking about. Here's a series. That was the deconvoluted, but here's the raw image. Okay. And it's not there, right? Next one.
Right.
Not there. Next one. Now it's there. This is a series of
man?
3 images. Okay. It's not a dead pixel. Otherwise, all of them would have that same thing there.
And it's also not a piece of dust because, again, we'd be looking at something very similar.
Right. Not dust, not a dead pixel. It's not a camera artifact, and it's not a cosmic ray burst. Okay. This is an object in the sky. And that's the thing. That's the other thing I wanted to mention, too. All these things, you don't see this little shape render anywhere that's on the ground. And all these things I'm going to show you, they're all in the sky. Okay.
Why, if this is what it is, and I have a hard time figuring out what it could be.
Mhm.
Why is NASA releasing this?
NASA,
Because
NASA's released.
this is it, right? Like,
This is the thing. While there's so much pressure from the public, pressuring the administration, NASA, Congress to release more and more UFO data, right? We've been getting some of that. Meanwhile, very few people are paying attention to what NASA is actually doing with Mars. They're just releasing this stuff. It's not classified. They're just releasing it on their website and saying nothing about it and hoping no one will notice.
right.
But there are people noticing it, which
But they don't
Mars
even
is-
care, because when you start saying, I found a UFO on Mars, people are
Right.
going to check out and glaze their eyes over.
Right. They're not going to take you serious. They're going to think you're a loony bin, right? So this is why I'm trying my best to rewrite this narrative that there's nothing interesting on Mars. There's a whole lot of interesting things on Mars. Very few people are paying attention. So we've got the great Mars disclosure has receipts. And we're looking at a lot of them today. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so again, just a typical rover photograph, and you might think, oh, that's just debris, blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing about this image. This shows us, okay, it's not the best example, but, right, disc shape with a bulbous midsection. And I don't know what you want to make of these other two things. Maybe those are just weird little artifacts. I don't really know. But what I want to draw your attention to is this shape right here. See this here? This precise shape appears in multiple photographs on different days, and it appears in the same location and it's the exact same shape. This is a camera artifact. Okay? We've nicknamed this the booger. All right.
Okay.
This will appear in multiple photographs across different days. All right. This is a camera artifact. That is not something that is imaged in the sky. All this other stuff, different story.
And
so
you
that's
can see what the difference looks like.
Exactly. So we're ruling out camera artifacts. We know what camera artifacts look like. That's a camera artifact.
Right.
All right.
This is kind of mind-blowing. That looks like that is the closest thing I've seen to, I mean,
I know.
What the fuck is that, dude?
Here's the next one. This is odd because it's in a different orientation.
Yeah, but again, remember the footage. What do they say? What do they say?
It was moving. Holy smokes.
It was rotating.
Rotating, right.
Right? So, and Bob Lazar famously said that these things had to fly belly first. They would point towards their destination and rotate, and multiple other people have seen these things take off and rotate and then move, pretty silently, but very, very fast, instantaneous acceleration.
Right.
Throughout and that could explain why they're there in one picture, gone in the next, right?
Exactly.
Because even the frame rate can't capture it.
No, these photos are generally taken 12 seconds apart.
That's so much time. But guys, all right, ready? Start. That's what 12 seconds feels like. That's
right.
A UFO, blink, gone.
Exactly.
45 times over.
So this one, again, it's a disc shape with a bulbous midsection. I don't know about you, Ty, but I've seen enough photos in my life to know that cameras just don't produce that kind of weird glitch in a photo. Like, have you ever looked at a photo and said, hey, look, there looks like a disc with the bulbous midsection in any of the photos that you take with any camera ever? Why is it just with NASA rover photographs that we're seeing this funky thing? And in the declassified military footage.
Why is it always in the sky?
It's in the sky. It's not down here. Exactly.
Yeah, never located. Like, if it is an artifact, why is it consistently above the horizon, in the air, over the surface? Like, unmistakably over the surface.
With every single one of these too.
Yeah, why isn't it at the bottom left corner? Like, you know what I mean?
Here's the raw image of that one. This is the raw one on that one. Okay, so just in all transparency.
Right. Like, why isn't that camera,
Like
if that's an
here,
artifact, right? Exactly. Why isn't it where that purple thing is? Why is it only happening in places that it seemingly is in the it's in the I say air, but you know what I
yeah,
mean.
right. It
It's
is.
it's
It's in the sky, right?
in the sky of Mars.
Okay, here's another one. Clearly, rover here. Just disc shape, bulbous midsection.
And there's no way that that's like a planet, right?
No,
That's
no,
not Saturn with a ring.
no. The rover navigation camera. All this is no.
Okay.
You cannot resolve something like that just from one of these. You need a telescope for Saturn or even Mars's moon to show up in something
Oh.
like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
no.
Okay.
There's clear image. Okay, so this one's funky because it's in white.
Right. What? Yeah.
Disc with bulbous with a tail going upwards. Just kind of funky. And here we have same kind of thing, but in white. This is a raw image right here. You could download this from NASA's website today. We provide all the source URLs. You zoom up on it. What do we see? Disc shape with a bulbous midsection. I don't know why it's white and not black like the other ones. I don't know. But see what NASA calls this, they'll say that NASA will say this is a cosmic ray burst. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, but only in the context of like from the like in the sun and the
Sure.
I've never heard it used outside of that. Like, I didn't know it was something that happened in our atmosphere.
Well, okay. What a cosmic ray burst. This is a cosmic ray burst. Can you see it right up here?
Okay. So it streaks like in the sky.
It is a photon of light that was captured from the sun in the camera here, and how it renders in the CCD as it's captured by the camera. It just renders as this basically 1 pixel wide streak of light. Okay. And NASA's there's an astronaut, Donald Pettit, who just so happens to be a photographer. He photographs these things in outer space all the time, and he documents them. And they just are thin streaks of light, and that's it. A thin streak of light is not any of this stuff. These are not thin streaks of light. So to say it's a cosmic ray burst is nonsense.
Even if it's long exposure, it would be in just a longer line. It wouldn't have any bulbous nature to it. It would just be a longer straight line because it's again long exposure. It's just going to extend that photon beam into a longer beam. This has definition. This has shape to a degree that I don't buy that answer.
So here's Donald Pettit. He's an astronaut, and he tweets this stuff from time to time. He's real specific about what cameras he's using. Look, this is a cosmic. What he is saying, it's hard to see here. This is a meteor streak. And this thing, can you see this really thin streak here?
Yeah.
That's a cosmic ray. He photographs these things. Here's a better image of it, okay? You can see it's going through the red, green, and blue CCDs of the camera.
Yep.
Okay, that is what a cosmic ray is. That doesn't look like anything that I just showed you.
Not even.
So when they say it's cosmic ray, that's nonsense. But people don't know because they don't know what a cosmic ray is supposed to look like. So they just accept NASA's explanation.
And again, you guys see this long exposure, the lines that it creates on everything else. We would see that in the photos of Mars as well. If it was again, and I'm just kind of, this is like technical stuff, but like, I'm sorry, that doesn't hold water. That doesn't hold weight, that these are cosmic rays. Yeah, I think. Wow, wow. Um,
I do have one more for you.
I'm and just while you skip to that next one, like you know, these remote viewers, they're talking about that there are these beings that are still there on Mars and or were there on Mars, and if UFOs and like, if we are to believe that they're coming to Earth, um, I would have to assume that they're going to have wave stations, to whatever degree that would mean for an alien civilization or interdimensional civilization. But we see the same architecture, the same structures in the moon, in Mars, and on Earth. Is it a coincidence? No.
Okay, Ty, can you see this here? All right. It says dead pixels don't move. Do you see that?
Yep.
Let's do viewing slideshow presenter view. Okay. Can I maximize this? All right. Can you see that maximized screen now? Here we go.
Yep.
All right. So here are the source URLs for the series of images. What we have here, Ty, is we have motion in this series of images. Now, it's hard to see. You see this little dot right there?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that dot?
I sure can.
Okay, it's not much, but that's what a dead pixel would look like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's just a pixel, right? But 12 seconds later, after this shot was taken, that pixel is no longer there because it's over here.
Huh.
Okay, not so much of a big deal. It's just a little tiny pixel, big deal. But then 12 seconds after this shot was taken, that shot was taken. Dead pixels don't move.
Oh my god. It's hard. It's like laughable at this point.
Right.
It's really. I don't know what to make of that, dude. I mean, you've convinced me that
Mars has some strange stuff going on there. And like, look, we don't have time to get into the rest of it, but I've got a whole
we'll
series.
do a part 2.
We've got fossils and we've got artifacts and we've got ruins.
Which I want to ask you one thing. Every major, ancient culture, from the Egyptians to the Maya, they were completely kind of like yeah, I guess we can use the word obsessed with Mars. They often associate it with, warfare or destruction, even creation, I think, at some points. What do you think of our ancestors? Like, did our ancestors simply look at that red dot in the sky and make something up? Or do you think that they were inheriting firsthand knowledge of something else?
I think it's a combination of two things, and I'll admit that I am not deeply knowledgeable about either one of these, but I know enough just to give the 101 version. Yes, we have this deep history, these stories that have been passed down from ancient times. Some would say mythological stories and such that do talk about humanity starting on Mars and coming to Earth. So there's that aspect of it, which requires a different field of study to really interpret correctly. But I want to call attention to something else more nuts and bolts. There is sufficient evidence to suggest that our solar system in the ancient past was not always in the stable positioning that it is right now. In other words,
Ah,
the planets and their orbits right now were not always where they were. And that scar on Mars that you were talking about, okay, that is, we'll have to get into this later, but that is an electrical discharge scar. And it either happened by the sun having a bad day and taking it out on Mars, like Aurora Borealis on steroids sort of thing,
right.
or two planets came in close enough proximity to one another that had opposing charge,
Magnetic charges. Yeah.
electrical charge, and if they get too close together, they would discharge between the two, sort of like your high school science teacher showing you what electrical discharge looks like with a Van der Graaf generator, those two big electrical balls with a little tiny spark going between the two of them, okay?
Right.
It's the the electrical difference between your hand and the doorknob in the wintertime when you get a shock in the door handle when you open up the door, or the difference in the sky and the ground, which is why we have lightning discharge. Well, imagine if two opposing planetary bodies of different charges came close enough in contact where they discharged between the two. And the Thunderbolts channel does a lot of work on talking about the ancient history of our solar system and how what they saw in the sky was the planets physically being closer to Earth, not really requiring you to have a telescope to see them. They were more visible, like our moon was visible. Our moon is visible to us right now. The early solar system was a lot more unstable and chaotic, and planets were moving. So I don't have a whole lot more information, but there is sufficient evidence to suggest that that was the case, and that what they saw as Mars attacking somebody was a discharge between Mars and another planetary body that was happening to go by it.
And one of those planets could have been the one that it ends up coming in contact with, like fully hitting it, and that that is what creates the asteroid belt, and that impact also throws the planet, all the planets into a new, maybe more stable orbit, and that's where we find ourselves today. That impact pushed us all a little further out, just enough where now, I'm just, thinking out loud here, but is that crazy to think about? Am I crazy? I don't know.
Here, look at here's an image just for those. It's just easier to look at this. Okay, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, that would be like the shit that they would say Zeus did.
Yes. Now there is actual evidence here, Ty, which we'll have to say for another time, that reproduces that same scar that you see on Mars. They've reproduced that same exact morphology in the laboratory using plasma discharge. And believe it or not, that same scar, Earth has one.
Oh wow.
The exact same morphology. We'll have to save that for part 2.
Yeah, part 2 in person. Jesus Christ, that would be a scary fucking sight, though.
I know. And so either Mars discharged with Earth or discharged with Venus. There's lots of evidence to suggest Venus wasn't exactly where it was. So anyway.
That is a haunting thought about, oh gosh.
Imagine being on the planet when that happened, right?
Nope. Just kill me.
And remember, what does every single Mars rover photograph have in common? What does it show you? What do you see in Mars rover photographs all over the place?
Just shards of rock.
Rocks just freaking everywhere, okay? That scar on Mars is a giant canyon the size of the United States. What we're talking about, Ty, is instantaneous excavation of crustal material 3,000 miles long. Where did it go? Everywhere else on the planet. What is
Right.
Mars? What is Mars covered with? Craters everywhere.
Right.
That was a
And
bad day on Mars.
yeah, and it could have kicked up a lot of the rusty dust that, well, no, well, I guess it depends when it happens, but I was gonna say, never mind. Never mind. But yeah, that tracks, man. Oh God, that would have been a terrible day. That
So
would have been a terrible
I
day.
know, man. Mars has me hooked, dude. There's just so much cool stuff about it.
What
It's
about like
tragic.
stuff like this? You think that's
Yeah.
fake?
I'd have to get. I don't know
That might be pareidolia. I could see that being pareidolia.
I try to stay away from the rocks that look like faces because we already have enough problems with the
But
pareidolia.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah. Too much leeway there, I suppose.
if I knew the source, I could get Jean to upscale that and see what it looked like. But I don't really try to like entertain those sorts of things.
Love it. Um, Thank you, dude. Thank you so much for doing this. Again, I'd love to do part two. Maybe bring you up to Boston or down to Boston, um, and be able to do it in studio. Where can people find you, and where can people keep up to work with your date? Where can they watch the documentary Blue Planet Red? Where hit me with it.
Yeah. Well, sure. Oh, can I show the movie poster?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
Let me show the movie poster and I'll talk about it here. I really am happy with this, the way this came out, the artist who did it for me. Here's the movie poster. You can find all of my work on the website, blueplanetred.net. I'm on YouTube at Brian Cory Dobbs, on Twitter at Brian Cory Dobbs. The documentary proper, it's a 2-hour documentary, talks about all of this stuff. I interview 24 people from academia to aerospace industry to NASA. I got a retired NASA astrobiologist who talks a lot about panspermia and microfossils. We've got microfossils photographed. In the documentary, independent researchers, Avi Loeb, Robert Schock, John Brandenburg, Mark Carlotto, and a bunch of other cool guys in the documentary. You can find it on Amazon Prime. There are also other streaming networks. You can get it on your cable box. Verizon, Xfinity, Spectrum. You can pull it up on video on demand there, as well as Documentary Plus and a few other international streaming networks. You can go and watch it there, but I usually just say it's on Amazon. It's on Amazon UK as well, but not all territories. So anyway, but watch the documentary first, because then the YouTube is really the continuing series of the documentary. The documentary was what started it all off, and then the YouTube, I go into more detail and new discoveries, things I've learned since making the documentary.
That is awesome, man. And I really love that. You do great work, and I can't wait to, have you back on and dive even further into Mars. I mean, we just did 3 hours, and that's what I love. Because I like to jump down, and I always leave room for more. So yeah, can't wait to have you back, brother.
Yeah,
I will admit I was a little bit more high energy than I thought I was going to be, because
that's good, dude. That's good.
yeah, I got really into this actually. And again, I'm not feeling well. Took some Dayquil, so sorry if I annoyed anybody, but that shit blew my mind, man. That shit. This has been. I'm surprised that this isn't being talked about more, and it's a shame that it isn't. It kind of does show that the public awareness, the lack of public awareness, is a huge problem. There's so many distractions in the world. There's so many, materialistic behaviors that have been created through, this reality that we've created, and I feel like there's what our ancestors at least had over us was their connection with the celestial surroundings, with the earth itself. So, Would love to have more conversations with your brother.
Totally.
Keep up the great work. To everyone listening, to everyone watching, thank you so much. You guys are the reasons we can keep this show on the road. We do. We're trying to do a lot more in studio episodes. This one obviously is remote. We're doing this hybrid for the time being, but representative from the UAP task force, he took direction from Jay Stratton. Lenville Logan will be in studio this week coming up. So that's going to be a really great episode. We're going to be diving deep into so just so much stuff with what he's been working on, and whistleblower protections, and get this really like analytical side of things, and what the UAP task force does, what a government organization looks like when they are investigating the phenomenon, what is the logistics, all of that we'll be diving deep into. Super fun. And then we have a bunch of episodes coming up, actually one with a remote viewer, Angela Ford. You probably know her. Yeah. So yeah, anyway, stay humble, stay kind, stay vigilant. We'll see you on the other side, as they say. You know what's weird? The screen, right as I was, because when you hit end stream, it plays the music. When I clicked it, the whole screen well, it just glitched out. But anyway, yeah, again, something's like, I feel like something's messing with me lately, just like
Something's
technically
wacky.
yeah,
Definitely.
something's just messing with my, like, it's like, I'm gonna mess this up for you. But either that, or I'm just finding a way to make an excuse to prolong it. All right, now we'll see you guys next time.